So maybe we're going to see just a different Tua on the confidence level, right? Like he's now freely sharing this stuff. You mentioned how he's got the power, and he's got certainly the horsepower surrounding him, and a coach who adores him and knows how to scheme the horsepower around him. I don't know. Everybody thinks the sky's the limit at this time of year in the NFL, but what's your 2 cents on him this year being paid for the Dolphins, Dan?
Well, one of the many interesting things here, Rich, and I would defer to your expertise, right? Because I can't untangle in San Francisco Brock Purdy's greatness and his value from Deebo Samuel and Ayuk and Trent Williams and McCaffrey and Kittle and all of the overwhelming talent that surrounds him. But Tua is kind of, to me, Brock Purdy on steroids. And I would say to you that the Dolphins' best window to win was when they had Tua at value. Now they're paying him more than Mahomes, and they still have to go through Mahomes, and Mahomes is cheaper and has lost the weapon that Tua needs in order to make him as confident as he is. But I would say to you that wherever it is that confidence resides inside of sports or in human beings, it is successes stacked atop each other. And I would assume that this man's confidence is real, having a coach who backs him, a system that clearly supports him. He gets the ball out very quickly, so he gets to play a Brady style. He's not as good when he doesn't get rid of it in 2.5 seconds, but he gets to play a style that's less violent than the others. And on top of that, you tell me, Rich, I don't think you could lead the league in passing yards by accident. Like, nope. We could say system, we could say coaching, we could say Tyreek Hill, but I would think that there's a real confidence in knowing, wait, I just did this for a full season healthy. And when I did, I threw for more yards than anybody was throwing for. So my confidence is real. I can do this. It's not a belief. It's not a hope. There's less doubt. Like, I've done it. I can do it. If you give me these pieces, I'm going to get better doing this, because he's not yet at his prime, is he? Like, he's still learning. He's going to improve.
Yeah, Listen, I'm not a system quarterback guy. I'm just not. Brady's a system quarterback. You know, Peyton Manning was the only guy who could run his system to the point where when he went down for the season for Indianapolis with that neck injury, nobody else could operate the system the way that he could operate it. Aaron Rodgers, perfect example, last year. He's the system. He's the guy calling plays, neck up, and everything else. So when you've got somebody like McDaniel who can bring in a scheme and knows I just need speed, and I know I need smart receivers that know how to get open with their footwork and just to follow along what I'm trying to tell them, and I need just somebody who's really whip smart who can get the ball out quickly, no doubt he saw Tua and he goes, that's the guy. I can do this here. And the Dolphins were smart enough to say, we'll hire you even though you've got no head coaching experience, and we don't know what you're going to do when there's 3 minutes on the clock and you got to throw that red challenge flag, so on and so forth. It's just, to me, the Dolphins, out of anybody in the NFL, need a home field advantage. They just, obviously nobody wants to go and play in sub 20 degree, negative 20 degree weather, but this system needs to operate right there in South Florida and stay there. That's just the way I look at it. And I mean, everybody stays healthy and doesn't have any non-contact injuries like the defense suffered last year. I do think the Dolphins are a force to be reckoned with, Dan. I really do.
The things that you're saying, injury and Decembers that have been collapses, those are things that happen in football, and they make the measurements difficult. I would ask you this question,
yes,
Rich.
Sir.
If I simply put in front of you from the last 2 seasons, and this is just the way that we're doing this empirically now that everybody has a fantasy team, everything on Hard Knocks with the New York Giants is let's study the executives. Everybody's an architecture expert. So it becomes about value for Tua and Purdy. If I gave you just their stats and told you nothing else, if I said, Rich, here are Purdy's stats from last year and here are Tua's stats from last year, is that one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL? Yes or no? Don't look at the uniforms, the systems, nothing. I'm just giving you numbers. Your answer is what?
Yes.
And so I don't know what we're doing with our obsession with measurements when we have to disentangle who's responsible for credit and blame on something that's empirically numerical. Like, I don't know what we're doing. We're obsessed with it, but I'm just asking you, because I can't get consensus on whether Tua or Purdy are actually as exceptional as I think they are. But the numbers I can't argue with.
It's narratives, Dan. It's narratives. Purdy was the last pick in the draft for a reason, right? Supposedly. And Tua, like I said, he was the minute he threw that pass to win the national championship game for Alabama, it was, well, Nick Saban even had to bench Jalen Hurts because this kid was going to go to the transfer portal, and he's one of the special kids ever. And Joe Burrow wound up being drafted over him, and Herbert had a much better few first years. And again, Tua can't shake that for so many people. That's all that it is, I think. But when it all comes down to it, the question is do you have the rest of the system around you and the players around you? And I think both organizations do. And there's a reason why you're mentioning both of these teams also. McDaniel came from Shanahan, and they run similar worlds. And again, just I guess to bring it all full circle here, Dan, were you surprised that Tua said what he said? I mean, and so
I was because I'm expecting a quarterback at any point in my lifetime doesn't bring or welcome or invite those headlines around the locker room. The quarterback position, hell, I've seen this for so long down here, Rich. You have to understand the power struggle at the top of the Dolphin organization. As soon as Jimmy Johnson got here, he wanted to run off Dan Marino. He had a problem doing it. He could not do it because there was a quarterback coach power struggle. So for Tua to be as careful as he's been his entire career, because he has not been a scintillating interview. What I just saw at the beginning from you, at the beginning from the Super Bowl, is as good as I've heard Tua in other circumstances. He's pretty careful, and that position is also careful. So we don't have a lot of going after active coaches right before a season. So, yeah, I was surprised by all of it. But it wasn't just that, Rich. It was the entire 20 minutes. Like, this was a confident human being. This was not a person who was being guarded. I'm telling you that the other times I've talked to Tua, I've always felt like, not necessarily that he's a child, because I don't want to infantilize him, but when you're obsessive compulsive at that position and to be that good at it, you're going to come out of college as sort of a lopsided individual, right? It's hard to be a fully formed adult coming out of college when you've had to get to the top of that and some of the other things that are adulthood you can put off to the side. I was talking to a very confident adult. That was not bluster. Now, you can say it's the contract. You can say it's the numbers he's put up. You can say it's the growth through the fire of 2 years of hell when your coach doesn't support you and you think your dreams are going to collapse because your receivers can't get open and your offensive line stinks. Like, I don't know what it was, but I'm telling you, that's somebody I haven't heard before. I have talked to him a number of times. That relaxed is not something I've seen before.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.